This roll of film was blank. This roll of film was blank. You betrayed me. Apart from this roll. You did this roll, but the rest, blank.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to what is probably the last thing that I will be filming in this room, because as you can see behind me, there are boxes, there is emptiness, because by the time you see this, I'm going to be moving house. Anyway, when I was in Japan, I took 3 cameras with me. Technically 4 if you count my phone, because I filmed a lot on that. So yes, I took 4 cameras with me when I was in Japan recently. Starting with my Canon 7D Mark II and 2 lenses. My GoPro Hero session, which ran a lot in the background and did a lot of heavy lifting for something that is many years old. My iPhone 11 Pro, again, did a lot of heavy lifting considering we're now on the iPhone 14.
Hello.
And then there is this Pentax K1000, which is the camera I'm here to rant to you today about, because, like vinyl records, film photography is back in the cool kids camp again. And that is because shooting on film is kinda special. Because the physical process of exposing the silver halide crystals in film to light to create a unique image that you don't get to see until you develop the film makes the whole process of being a photographer in the age of digital photography, where you can shoot, delete, and keep going with that process until you get the shot you want, it's a much more involved and a much more in the moment process. And in particular, the Pentax K1000 is kind of perfect for getting into film photography. And the reason is that it is 100% mechanical and only requires a battery for the light meter, which is not a requirement for actually taking pictures with it. They stopped being made in 1997, so if you do want one, it will be the second-hand market, and they do cost between £50 and £200 depending on condition. Now, I'm lucky in that I did inherit my Pentax K1000 from Lauren's dad. And about a year ago, I decided that I would give it a crack, I would give it a try. I would take my digital photography skill set and apply it to the analogue of film, with some varying results, successful and unsuccessful. So when packing for Japan, in addition to the other cameras that you've seen, I made room for the Pentax and 2 rolls of film, and upon landing in Tokyo, I loaded up the black and white film into the camera, and that's where the problems began. For you see, dear viewer, the process of loading your film into said film camera appears at first to be quite simple, but the problem I encountered. You take your film camera, you open the back of it, and then you take your little film canister and you put it into the camera like so, so that the leader is coming out. Then you find the little edge, or the little hole, which the camera will barely show, here, that the film is to go into. Now in theory, this will grip the film and pull it along as you advance the roll, like so. And you'll see here that there are little teeth that lock into the holes in the film and drag it along. And then each time you wind it, new film is presented by your aperture. Then close the camera up, advance it on a few times so that you've got film that's not been exposed to light. I can't open and show you the film because that will expose it to the light and ruin it. Now, the problem that I encountered was that I had not loaded the film correctly, or at least it didn't engage with those little teeth that you just saw that advances the film along inside the camera. So I put the film in. I shot 36 exposures, as the film says it can take. And then I realised that there was possibly a problem when I came to wind it back. Because to get the film out, you have to wind it back inside its little canister so that it's not re-exposed to light and ruins all your shots. So there's a little button on the bottom of the Pentax that disengages the winding mechanism, so you can, with this little handle, wind it all the way back into the canister. Now doing that, you normally get an amount of resistance when you're winding it back because it's pulling the film through. That takes about a minute or so. This time it took maybe 2 or 3 seconds before it just became free winding, meaning that the film had not fully engaged and been pulled through. Now, still being new to film photography, I hadn't quite realised what had happened. I thought maybe that the film hadn't exposed, but I wasn't 100% certain, and the film had been rolled back inside its canister, so I could not get the film back out to try again. So I had to take the risk and assume that maybe they had exposed, maybe they hadn't, and I wouldn't know until I got it back from the developer. So when I did get the film back from the developer, I had the results that looked like this instead of this. Pretty obvious difference there. And of course, the worst part is that it didn't happen once, but it happened twice, with the black and white film and the colour film. Now, the thing that didn't set my suspicions off was that, as you saw in the Kyoto episode where we go to the bamboo forest, that I started running out of film a lot earlier than I thought I was going to, so I had to buy a third roll of film, roll number 3, in Japan from a Bic camera in Kyoto Station, which, yeah, you can still buy film in major electronic retailers in Japan. But it was this bought in Japan roll of film that I used second. That one exposed correctly and wound back correctly, which should have given me a hint on the third roll of film that it hadn't worked properly, but hey, I'm an idiot, I didn't realise. So we had bad roll, good roll, bad roll, just to really throw my suspicions off. So ultimately, I have learnt my lesson with film photography, that it's incredible. The results you get are truly unique. I would describe film as kind of magic in the images it produces, but it is not without its risks. Personally, I'm going to be a digital photographer. It's just easier. The skill involved, they are transferable, but yeah, film. It's a good hobby, I'll say that, but there were a lot of great shots that I knew would have been on this had the film engaged properly, which it didn't. And I kind of have to live with that. It is kind of my fault for not making sure the film's engaged properly. It's also kind of the camera's fault as well. It is admittedly a very old camera, probably made 20 or 30 years ago, so it's not going to be as reliable as it was when it was new. But a poor workman always blames his tools, so I can't really blame the camera. I have to blame myself. It has worked correctly before in the past, so it is my fault. Now, because of the earlier mentioned moving of houses, I'm not really going to have access to my computer and subsequent editing abilities as much as I would have liked, which is why this video today exists, to make a bit of content, give a bit of time. But for now, please enjoy this trailer for the remaining 3 days of the 12 Days of Japan. another reason that we have stopped at this particular station, and that is because of this view. Just joined the queue. We're 35 minutes in now, approaching hour 1 of queuing. 1 hour and 1 minute of queuing, and we have arrived into Disneyland.